Space, the final frontier. The frontier between life and death, that is. War is a costly affair, one that not just puts an extensive cost on the infrastructure and logistics of a state that supports it, but also brings a societal cost that generations to come will bear upon, as they struggle to mend the bond that was broken. And space warfare is exponentially more expensive in both costs and causes of it. Fortunately, fleet-scaled space warfare is incredibly rare, as few states and entities could conduct it, but when it happens, its effect will be felt for ages, like the brutal hammer it is. This battle between fleets of the line might appear silent and elegant to an observer as the fleets converge on a tightening gyre, dodging and weaving through incoming fire and missile while answering back with more, but up close, it's the most brutal form of war, with weapons that could easily split continents apart, and thousands of the most well-trained men and women humanity has to offer, will perish along with their ships. Before the crew could even see their opponents with their own eyes, their vessels are automatically set to launch the first of their payload. Torpedoes, kill clouds, spoofers, shrouds, and subaltern kinetics. As space provides almost no cover or protection on its own, a fleet will have to make cover of their own. As soon as the sensor picks up an enemy signal, the crews awaken from their stasis and head to their station. Titanic-sized long spool guns began to charge. At this point, the core NHP of each vessel, paired with a commanding officer, comes online and is given free rein to duplicate themselves to spread to all of the ship's system, coordinating it all in sync. Then, every ship NHP in the fleet network together into a hybrid one/many mind, a fleet legion, to completely integrate every single systems, sensors, and weapons of all ships in the fleet into a single system. A virtual war room is formed by the fleet legion, and all commanding officers have access to information and recommendation given by them. Each officers have the rights and authority to send down the info to the rank and file on a need-to-know basis. Due to the sheer processing power NHP is capable of, tactical command of the fleet is given to NHP, while strategic and kill command is on the commanding officer instead. The first actual non-automated commands sent down after the initial volley are to avoid incoming fires, communicate with allied ships, and order the crew to be ready for combat. Every member of a vessel quickly don their space suit, lock into their station, inject combat stim, cycle all loaders, and link to the fleet legion. Along the flight decks and carrier blisters, pilots prep their flights while technicians load up ordnance, pre-flight checks and procedures conducted quickly and accurately. If mech chassis are on board, they will either board the landers with marine, or have mount of their own in the form of chassis mount, external power drive packed with ordnance. Then, on the command of the officers, wings of fighters, bombers, landers, and mounted chassis scramble for their mission. Gunboats, corvettes, destroyers, and cruisers, subline ships, detach off their mothership and begin attack run. Frigates, battleships, and carriers form a battle line and continue both systemic and kinetic countermeasures, protecting the fleet from any incoming projectile or vessels. Kill zones between two fleets are established. Kilometers-long capital vessels begin to fill up the distance between both fleets with increasing volume of projectile and lance. Long spool guns continue to charge. A no-man land is formed between the fleets, filled with highest density of kill clouds and anti-ship weapons, and the wings and escorts have to go through it to reach their target, the other side, and it will take them roughly a day to reach it. Fighters act as the escort, intercepting any incoming torpedo flights, subline ships, and their opposing counterparts. Bombers and subline ships launch their payload upon the capital ships, at close enough range that they can't evade it all. And the landers, crowded with marines, along with mounted chassis, will conduct the most dangerous and difficult task of all, boarding. The vacuum of space is already an extremely hostile environment. A spacer has closer proximity to death than any ground pounders will. Add in changing vectors, unfriendly fire, lack of support, limited supplies, and on top of having to deal with all that at once, the boarders have to charge through heavily defended interior of a capital ship to reach the command center. Most units sent for boarding won't return at all. As distance gets shorter, ships-to-ship combat intensifies. Dumb kinetic cloud weapons open up, hurling thousands of projectiles onto predicted enemy path. Short-cycle lance begins to fire, invisible beam scattering off projected shielding and carving through ablative armor. Torpedoes reach their target in shorter time than before, wings and escorts engage, return, resupply, and repeat their flight quicker and quicker. The unpredictability gap, the time in which NHP and pilots can outmaneuver their opponent, are closing in fast. The long spool guns remain charging. Systemic weapons begin to pound at the fleet, legion and system of individual vessels, and payload launched early in the engagement are finally being activated. Spoofer and shrouds pinged enemy sensor and comms array with hostile code and false signals. Subaltern kinetics link up with master system for final approach before plunging towards their target. Fleet legions directly face each other, engaging electronic warfare with weapons esoteric and incomprehensible to human observers, hurling ontological and anti-solipsistic paradox weapons back and forth. All these to feed false data to the enemy, causing them to fire towards empty space, or activate near-light bolt ejection in fear of damage that never was there. After all, when human senses are no longer sufficient, the only way to know anything is through data processed by the systems, and if the only thing in 10 million kilometers that can tell you the truth is now broken, what else could you trust? Finally, at range too close for evasive maneuver, long spool guns, fire. Tremendous, demisolar particle lances or many gigaton kinetics are hurled at their targets. The only way to survive a hit from such weapon is with sheer luck. A direct attack would obliterate any ships no matter the shielding, and a glancing blow would still cripple it. Which is why some commander would rather focus all their power on the weapon itself. If the enemy dies in a single shot first, there won't be any need for defense. However, they need to make the shot count. The sheer amount of power need to fire a capital ship's spinal gun means that cooling and recharging for a second shot will take too long. Every naval commanders know this, and hold onto their shot as long as they can until they could score a clean hit, as otherwise the enemy have all the time to aim for a killing blow. This is the moment when the unpredictability gap closed, the climax of a terrible battle. The moment a capital ship goes down, is the moment one side loses a tremendous advantage. Fighters and subline ships locked in combat with their counterparts, intercepting or striking against the opposing fleet. Marines and mechs fought compartment to compartment, deck to deck, in a grinding CQB and melee battle to take control of the vessel they landed upon. NHP tore the very existence of their opponent apart, in a battle somehow more brutal than the one in subjective space. The capital ships continue to fight until their hulls break before their will, their armor and chamber hammered by kinetic and scarred by lance. Eventually, something is bound to break, and the battlefield is flooded with blindingly bright micronova of a capital ship's cataclysmic death. Then, the battle ends with one side retreats or becomes completely eliminated. Space warfare, unfortunately, due to its very nature, usually produces binary results. Either you win, or you lose, hard. Most ships of the line, with rare exception, are equipped with a near-light drive, which can rapidly propel a ship to a near-light speed of up to 0.9 c or more. When triggered, either at the order of the ship NHP, or automatically within a set parameter, the ship will undergo near-light bolt, shunting it to near-light speed near instantaneously along a planned or randomized escape route. This is the only way for a ship to quickly eject itself from a battle without taking more damage, but the sheer amount of energy involved taxes the system and personnel heavily. It's lethal when done wrong, and dangerous when done properly, but it's a better alternative than death. After the battle ended, the cleanup begins. Survivors are rounded up and prisoners are dealt with. Any ships that have been scuttled or captured are turned towards friendly shipyard with a skeleton crew to be repurposed, as capital ships are too large to be simply printed. Reports are sent back to Central Command, then NHP unlinked and dropped back to non-combat operation status. The fleet could either continue their campaign, retire, or return to friendly shipyard for repair and replacements. In standard fleet engagement like this, thousands of lives will be lost. But it isn't comparable to battle fought near inhabited worlds, moons, or stations, which can raise the cost exponentially, with millions or even billions of civilian casualties. Terror attacks, such as accelerating asteroids and comets onto a planet, would prove even more costly, but nobody sane would do it because it would invite the same attack on themselves. Smaller scale space combat is more common, however, usually involving warring states on one world, or between the planet and the moon. Battle would usually occur when a fleet is ferrying ground troops from one continent to another, or escorting intercontinental and interstellar missiles to their target. Subline ships, and wings of mounted chassis, fighters, and bombers made up of these fleets, way cheaper than supporting a capital vessel and its escorts. It's rare for a capital ship to engage in low-orbit fleet combat, unless it is directly supporting an invasion and striking ground targets. However, no matter what, a result from a space combat is never cheap. Every fleet battle represents the complete breakdown of a whole sector, as state powers are willing to bear their capital and organization might against each other, quarreling over worlds and ideologies. Fleet battle of any kind is rare and terrible. Hello there, if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell button. If you really want to support my channel, you could visit my Patreon page, or buy me some coffee, links in the description. Anyway, have a nice day.